everybody ready to get started? All right. Thank you for your patience. So I am Gordon Bauer. I'm the Director of Grants Management for Mobile County. Thank you all for coming today. I want to give a little bit of a disclaimer before we get started. So this funding is separate from the state's funding for home repair. So that HRAP program that the state was running, that is a separate program. The county's funding cannot go to that same use. Now, we do have representatives from the state that will be in the room next door after the presentation. You can speak to them there. But that's not what the county is going to be doing with this money. We will be trying to address other needs in the community that still exist separate from the single family home repair. So wanted to say that up front. And with that, we'll get started. So again, I'm Gordon Bauer, Director of Grants from Mobile County. Thank you for coming today. Just so everyone's aware, this meeting will be recorded. So by participating, you are consenting to being recorded and for us to possibly distribute that recording at a later date. So if you object to being recorded, we ask that you please leave at this time. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation, and these slides will also be available on Mobile County's website after the presentation is over. So today we're going to be going over an overview of CDBG DR money, Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery money. This is focused on the recovery from Hurricanes Sally and Zeta from back in 2020. We're going to go over timelines for this grant, our goals for the grant, and also try and get feedback from you all today. So with that in mind, introduce our presenters for today. I'm Gordon Bauer. I also have, let me see if I can get the slides forward. There we go. I'm also joined by Renee Barrett, our Deputy Director of Grants Management, who is someone who might be in the other room. We also are joined virtually by the county's consultant Haggerty, and their staff, Laura Munifo, Hillary Wentworth, and Ashley Napier. And then we have various representatives from the state's consultant Horn on site today as well. So our purpose here today really is to gather information from all of you so we can match up this funding with the needs of the community for the most impactful programs that we can make. So this slide is our agenda for today. We're going to be talking about CDBG DR in general, funding availability, eligible activities, and then next steps. So we want feedback from you all. So there's an online survey available, but many of you have already filled it out by paper, that little packet that you all had. We're also going to have a brainstorm question throughout where you can participate one-on-one immediately right now. This slide shows our goals for this program overall. So we want to determine how the DR funding will be spent, what remaining unmet needs exist in the community, and then also provide get feedback from you all. So the meeting today is really just the first step in that process. So as I said, your involvement really is critical. So as we go through the presentation, you have to keep these questions in mind. What does the community need to recover? How did the hurricanes impact residents in your area? Do you have damage images that you could share with us? And what gaps still exist that need to be addressed? So now we're going to look through an overview of these hurricanes themselves. So this funding is focused on two particular hurricanes from back in 2020. Hurricane Sally, which was in September of 2020, landed as a Category 2 storm on the coast of Alabama and had heavy rainfall, record river flooding, caused $7.3 billion of damage in the U.S. And this was followed just 1 month later by Hurricane Zeta, which was a Category 3 storm, brought strong winds to Mobile and made new damage as well as making the damage from Sally worse. And it's estimated to have caused $4.4 billion in damage in the U.S. So this is our first opportunity for feedback from you all. Really think about the aftermath of the storms as you answer this question. I'm going to read the question, and then as I read the answer that you agree with, we have you please raise your hand so we can kind of get a consensus of what everyone thinks. So following the disasters, what damage impacted the community most? Was it A, storm surge flooding, B, wind damage, C, structural damage, or D, widespread power outages? Okay. Seems like most people think structural damage and widespread power outages with a little. Gotcha. Thank you for your feedback. So now we're going to look at an overview of the DR funding in general. So CDBG-DR is really just a supporting piece in the recovery from this. So there's a process for how recovery funds are provided. It begins with insurance, followed by non-HUD federal funding. This is FEMA and SBA funds. Then HUD funds come into effect. And finally, state, local, and other funding. So each funding source covers different elements, so there's no overlap, no duplication of benefits, and it requires that we coordinate among those funding sources to make sure that as many needs are met as possible. This slide shows a basic timeline for the recovery from these kinds of storms. So it begins with a state declaration of disaster, followed by a federal declaration of disaster, which is when FEMA funds come into play. DR funds come in later, so they're flexible. They come in after the other funding sources have already been spent, and it's their long-term recovery fund. So they typically don't show up until 2 to 3 years after the storm itself, which is just what we're seeing here today. This shows the overall process for how that funding flows from the federal level to the local level. So it begins with HUD, then goes to the state, where in this case it's managed by a DECA, then to the county, and then to local level program recipients. So this is the total funding that was allocated to these two storms. HUD provided a DECA with a little over $500 million in funding to recover from these two storms. Mobile County is a sub-recipient of a DECA, and we're set to receive a little over $28 million. This is contingent on us completing an unmet needs assessment, using that unmet needs assessment to create a local recovery plan. And that's where we need your help, is that feedback to get the data for the unmet needs assessment so we can write the plan. This is a more specific breakdown of the funding, that $28.3 million. So there's a little over $12 million for housing activities, over $15 million for non-housing activities, which are infrastructure, planning, economic revitalization, and then a separate $1 million allocation for the planning program, which is what we're doing right now. So each use of the funding has to meet one of three what are called national objectives. This is low mod income benefit, urgent need, or the elimination of slum and blight. There also has to be a direct or indirect tieback to the effects of those two storms for any activity to be eligible. And this slide shows an overall big picture of the DR process that we're going through right now. So we're currently working on completing the unmet needs assessment that will be used to develop a local recovery plan. Then we will take application for funding, select projects and programs, implement those projects and programs, and then close out those projects and programs. And all of this is contingent on a DECA approving the local recovery plan that we create. Now, Renee Barron is going to take us through the next couple of sections.
Good afternoon. So now we'll discuss eligibility for the grant. So some of the eligible activities as part of the grant, the program is broken up into primarily 4 different areas. You have housing, infrastructure, economic revitalization, planning, and mitigation. As Gordon stated previously, as part of our sub-recipient agreement with the DECA, the Mobile County Commission must spend $12.1 million on housing related activities and then $15.2 million on non-housing related activities. Please note that all potential projects and partners will be guided by eligible activities and unmet needs. Not all municipalities, tribes, and districts are guaranteed to receive funding. The ADECA Single Family Home Repair Program, also known as HRAP, will provide housing assistance to eligible single family owner-occupant applicants and owners of single-family rental properties affected by Hurricanes Zeta and Sally. HRAP assists property owners by providing funding to repair, reconstruct, or replace single-family homes that suffered damage from one or both of the storms. The program serves low to moderate income households impacted by the qualifying storms in 9 HUD and state designated most impacted and distressed counties. The HRAP application period is currently closed. We do have a representative from the program here on site today to answer any additional questions that you all may have. The housing allocation, so affordable housing is broken up into 3 primary categories. So new construction, rehabilitation, and demolition. So the property types that we generally see are single family, multifamily, apartment complexes, and townhomes. HUD's definition of affordable housing: housing on which the occupant is paying no more than 30% of their gross income for housing costs, including utilities. So grantees must expend no less than 50% of their grant award for activities which support the recovery of households at or below the 80% of the area median income. So that's the guidelines by which our housing and non-housing programs are allocated. So the eligible applicants for the housing programs or projects are available to the following entities. So you have municipalities, tribes, nonprofit organizations, and developers. So they're all eligible to apply. After the development for affordable housing is completed, an application process for potential residents will be conducted targeting the low to moderate income individuals who are in need of assistance. So we're looking at the community-wide impact related specifically to economic stability, social cohesion, neighborhood revitalization, improved health and mental health, as well as positive educational outcomes. So now we have our next brainstorm. So this is where we'll need everyone to participate. So think about our communities. Please describe the types of housing structures in the community. So do you guys primarily see single family home? So raise your hand if you agree with A. Okay, quite a bit, okay. Apartments, condominiums? Okay, a few there. Duplexes and townhomes? Okay, and then mobile homes. Okay, so it looks like most of us have experienced or see single family homes in our neighborhood. So for the non-housing allocation, as previously stated, we have 4 primary categories. So we have infrastructure, which is repair, replacement, or relocation of damaged public facilities. We have economic revitalization. So there we focus on workforce training, as well as revitalization and improvement projects. And then planning. So we're basically looking at resiliency as well as stormwater management. And then we also have mitigation, where we're elevating critical infrastructure. So you're looking at, should another storm come, what actions or programs can we put in place to prevent future damage? So for our non-housing programs or projects, the following entities are eligible to apply. So we have local and municipal governments. We have freestanding local and municipal government facilities such as libraries, parks, fire and volunteer fire departments, public schools, including districts as well as charter schools, universities and colleges, they must be public, as well as hospital and health systems, and then nonprofits determined to be eligible for federal funding. So again, we're looking at the community-wide benefit: economic development, enhanced public safety, environmental sustainability, improved community livability, as well as social equality. Another brainstorm. So please raise your hand when you hear the highest priority. So remember, when we're looking at the funding, we want to make sure that we have the most impact for the community. So how many of you feel that we would be best served using the funds for housing activities, including buyouts, construction, rehabilitation? Okay. Infrastructure activities. So you're looking at bridge, road repairs, stormwater improvements. Okay. Okay. Economic development. So workforce training programs, revitalization activities. And then the last one would be planning. So you're looking at the analysis of any vulnerable areas that we have in the neighborhood. So I think between A and B, so housing activities and infrastructure activities, I think those two areas almost tied just based on the number of hands. Well, I heard someone say all of the above. So we wish we could do all of the above, but again, we're looking at making the largest impact, which is why we need your input in this process. So some ineligible uses of funds. We all know with federal dollars, there are things that you just can't do and you shouldn't do. So we can't have buildings for general conduct of government, operation and maintenance expenses, political activities, activities restricted in the appropriation laws, as well as activities with no link to identify disaster-related impact. Again, this funding is to help us address unmet needs as a result of the disaster. So our final brainstorm, you guys ready? Okay, what is the top recovery activity according to the community's current priorities? Construction, rehabilitation of housing? Okay. Land acquisition buyout, so you're looking at areas that have consistent flooding. Okay, so I see a few hands there. Public facility improvements, including hospitals, libraries, fire and police. I know I saw a few police officers earlier, okay? And then bridge, road, and sewer improvements. And then we have local business recovery. Okay. So it looks like construction, rehabilitation of housing, and then the bridge, road, and sewer improvements won the day for this question. Okay. So now we'll talk about the unmet needs assessment as well as our local recovery plan. So you'll hear me say UNA or LRP when I'm referencing these two. So when we look at the UNA or the unmet needs assessment, it must be completed before deciding how to allocate the funding. So again, that's why we need your input in this process. Identify and prioritize critical unmet needs for long-term recovery. Should also consider work already accomplished, community goals, and the county's capacity to plan for, manage, and implement a coordinated long-term recovery process. Each municipality, tribe, and/or organization's data is critical to obtain the most accurate assessment of the community's need. And then all of this information will be used to develop the local recovery plan. Again, please note that all potential projects and partners will be guided by eligible activities and unmet needs. Not all municipalities, tribes, districts are guaranteed to receive the funding. Yeah. So the local recovery plan, or LRP, will utilize the housing, infrastructure, and economic data collected during the unmet needs assessment to develop a comprehensive plan. The plan will expand upon community needs, provide a framework for awarding projects, and include budgets based on the program or the project. And then the plan will also set a timeline to spend all CDBG-DR funding prior to May 18th, 2028. So again, our focuses are on infrastructure, economic revitalization, and housing. This seems like a bit of data, right? So this is basically our timeline. The areas that we want you all to focus on are our public engagement meetings. You guys are attending 2 of 5 total meetings that we'll have. So we have 3 additional meetings scheduled, which Gordon will review. We're also looking at finalizing the LRP. So again, we want to make sure that we receive the data needed so that we can do the unmet needs assessment, and then that information will feed into that local recovery plan. We'll have a public hearing to discuss the final plan, and then that information will be submitted to ADECA for approval. So what's your role in the completion of the unmet needs assessment and the LRP process? So again, most of you folks said, hey, we have issues with housing as well as infrastructure. So you're looking at sewer, roads. So any data that you have, that information needs to be submitted over to us. So what does the community need to recover? You guys see it, you live it day over day. How did the hurricanes impact residents in your area? So what were the things that insurance didn't cover? What were the things that are still left over from Sally or from Zeta that needs to be addressed? Do you have damaged images that you would like to share? Right? And then what gaps still exist that need to be addressed? And I saw your hand, we'll have a question portion at the end. So again, we need your data, your input in order to develop the best plan to have the greatest impact for our community. Now Gordon will come up and discuss the next steps. Give us just a moment. We have quite a few people outside, and we were trying to ensure that their needs were addressed as well. Okay. So while we're waiting, we want to make sure that all of the questionnaires that were requested earlier have been submitted. If you still have questionnaires, just pass them to the end of your rows, and we'll send someone around to gather them. And then also, if you have not had an opportunity to sign in, we definitely want to make sure we have you included in the listing, okay? And again, we just appreciate everyone's involvement and commitment in this. So while we're waiting, I guess I can share some additional information. So we'll have another public engagement meeting in Viola Battery on March 26th. We'll have the fourth meeting in the city of Citronelle on April 29th. And then we'll have our final engagement meeting where we present a draft of the local recovery plan on May 3rd. And that will be virtually being soon. But the other two meetings will be in person. Via Zoom. The last meeting will be via Zoom. So what we try to do with public engagement meetings, we're having them throughout Mobile County, and we offer them at different times, just to make it convenient for all of our residents. No, ma'am, but there will be updates from meeting to meeting. Yes, yes.
So like a questionnaire type of meeting. We're not signing up for anything right now. It's just more. Right. It's just more of a questionnaire. Okay. All right.
So we do have a website that you all can access. If you go to Mobile County, al.gov, and if you scroll down to grants, once you click on the grants icon under quick links, then we have a section specifically related to the CDBG-DR grant. And so all of our public engagement meeting timelines, as well as all of the presentations, as well as the links to the public engagement meetings, they're all included on that website. Now, Gordon will talk about next steps.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for your patience. I hope I wasn't gone too much longer than you needed. There's a whole crowd of people outside. I was trying to give them the highlights of what we're talking about in here. So now I'm going to talk about the next steps moving forward from here. So we're going to reach out for data and feedback from you all, beginning with that questionnaire, which most of you have already filled out, followed by a series of public engagement meetings just like this one over the next few months, and then public hearings for the completed plan. So our local recovery plan is due to ADECA in around August of this year. So and just a few reminders, ADECA is in charge of the Home Recovery Alabama program, their single family home repair. All the things we're talking about today are contingent upon ADECA approving our local recovery plan, and we won't be taking any applications for specific projects until after our local recovery plan is approved. So this is the preliminary list of our upcoming public engagement meetings. We plan to have one in Violet Battery, March 26th at 6 p.m., one in Citronelle at the end of April, and a virtual one at the end of May to go over the draft plan. But once these dates are finalized, publications will go out on the county's website in local newspapers. And we also have on our website a mailing list form where you can sign up to be notified of any updates for this program or any of our other grants department managed programs. You can give us your email and we'll send you notifications once these dates are finalized. So we have reached the Q&A portion of the meeting. If you have a question, please raise your hand and one of our team members will bring you a microphone so you can ask your question.
What day?
We're planning for April 29th.
So, I don't have.
He's in the line.
Okay, I don't currently have, homeowners insurance. So, for the hurricane, all of the repairs and stuff, and I wasn't able to do everything. Testing. Can you turn it down a little? Can you turn it? Testing. 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 Testing.
Where's your mic?
Choose my mic.
Yeah, I'll try to.
Testing. 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 So I was saying I didn't currently have homeowners insurance on my house, and what number of repairs that I had to make, I wasn't able to make a lot. I was able to just get the basic stuff. Can I help me with that?
So the question was, if with a lack of homeowners insurance, that not all the repairs that were needed for the home were made, can the program help with that? So that would fall in the category of what the state's HRAP program is meant to address. The county is not able to use this funding for that. It's in our agreement in the state's plan. We can't use our money for a home repair. So your need would have to be served by that state program. What? Yes, and the state is, has representatives in the room next door. At the end of the presentation, you can talk to them and ask questions about that program if you like. And any other questions?
Yeah, I got one question. Okay. If you would, please, if you would just stay in your spot and raise your hand, and I will get to you. Please, and thank you.
Okay, Gordon, could you tell us, which municipalities, so benefit from the program and approximately how much of it, how is it split with infrastructure?
So the question was, which municipalities will benefit from this funding and what the breakdown between housing and infrastructure is? So the housing versus infrastructure breakdown, housing is a little over $12 million and the infrastructure is a little over $15 million. As far as which municipalities benefit, it is the entire county except for the city of Mobile, because the city of Mobile has their own funding. So the jurisdiction for this program is everything in the county except the city of Mobile.
I got a question. How does it benefit the residents in Prichard? Most of our houses are old from the jump. And when this hurricane came through both of them, a lot of us in here suffered. A lot of us not able to make the repair. And a lot of us had to go outside our pocket to fix our dwellings. Now, and this program is specifically, what I'm trying to say is this, is can you help us fix our houses or we have to go to the state?
Right.
So the question was that big need in the community is the repair of those homes. Can this money help with that? So just for way of background, in the presentation, we mentioned that there was $501 million given for this storm total for the recovery. $280 million of that were set aside for the home recovery repair program. So more than half the money was put aside for that program. It's just not what the county's funding is going towards. Now, there is still, but the goal of this money and what we're doing with it is still designed to have a community benefit, repairing roads, water and sewer, building new affordable housing, for example.
Again, if you would please, just raise your hand if you have a question. We can't hear you if you're just yelling out. I would like to ask this question. If this is all in Mobile County, only, the reason I'm asking, I'm from Washington County, but I did have damage from later. My roads were still lumpy and I had insurance and homeowners insurance and they did not fix it. And it's still lumpy. So that's why I want to know what it's down.
So the question was whether this funding is just for Mobile County, and it is. It's limited to the confines of Mobile County.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please quiet down. We do have people asking questions, but we want to make sure that everyone can hear. So I was under the impression that this particular program was for people who had $60-something thousand more damage due to the storm. And if the house could not be replaced, then they would tear it down and rebuild it. But I just want to be clear, is this program is not going to benefit the residents in Mobile as far as repairing their homes. It's only to rebuild the county and what the community needs in the county. Is that correct? Yeah.
So the question was, once again, whether the funding would be used for the repair of single family homes or who the program is actually going to benefit. So when we say that it benefits the county, that includes all of the cities within the county except the city of Mobile. So anything within the city of Prichard also is eligible for projects and programs. So there's the state's Home Recovery Alabama program designed for single family home. The county's funding does not go towards that. This program does not go towards that.
If you were trying to exit the building, please go out this door right here, and then this double set of doors right outside here, please. Thank you. I'll get to you. I just make sure you hold your hands up so I can see you, okay? Hello? It's my understanding that this particular portion of the program is dealing with infrastructure. And it said public housing, meaning private. First of all, need no more private, no more public housing. We need condos. We need ways for people to have better affordable ownership so that our city can grow. Now, infrastructure, we have leaks in Prichard, we have no fire hydrants, we have stopped up sewage, and that is what this meeting is for. We need to get those things fixed so our property insurance can come down, so that we don't have floods and tow up streets. We need our streets fixed. That's what this portion of the meeting is about. It says public housing. Now, all of us are homeowners, that's not us. But we do not need projects in our neighborhoods. We need condos.
So the statement was about what the city needs in terms of water and sewer repairs, but also the kind of housing that the city needs. So this when we say the housing portion of the money, we do not mean like a public housing authority development. What we're talking about there, and again, this is what the plan is going to determine what kind of housing is needed, but it could include the building of single family homes for sale to low to moderate income home buyers. It could mean the development of a rental housing development that has rent caps that people could, based on income, qualify to live in. So that's what we mean when we say housing.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer, and Ms. for being here, addressing our questions and concerns. Understand that you're not here today to entertain the personal homeowners' usage of this grant. My concern is that the communication aspect of getting the information to us when the initial grant was being available to be applied for. Right. And I think that the city needs to do its due diligence, or the county do its due diligence in ensuring that the communicative aspect of that is a little bit more aggressive in this particular instance. A lot of us don't subscribe to cable. Local channels don't always come in. So I know you sent out press releases outlining that that program was going to be available, radio stations, etc. But a lot of people don't do that. Streaming services, email, hell, robocalls. You use them to aggravate us during the political season. I think the city can use that grant to put that into place. Again, don't internalize this. I'm just speaking out loud about suggestions for discussion and questions. Additionally, in our communities, very underserved. Our sewage and drainage systems are constantly backed up. You have heavy rains that exacerbated foundational damages to all of these homes, from salad further aggravated by the subsequent storms that occurred with existing rains. A lot of these houses are on flat foundation. They don't stand above ground, which means flood. Then you add to that a lot of these homes are older as well. So it damages the electrical, the plumbing. And here you have people that are trying to get by day to day while these corporations are buying up large swaths of our property in order to build additional housing that have us rent at enormous prices when we can't even get a bloody living away. So I understand that that's completely out of your purview, but again, it's something to consider when you're looking at how to spend this money to benefit these communities, which happens to be ours. I appreciate your listening.
So I don't know, I'm gonna have a hard time summarizing all the good points you made. But what I will say is that part of our requirements from ADECA is that we have to not just look at those tiebacks to the storms, we also need to look at historically underserved and disenfranchised communities and actively try to address those needs, not just generic needs. So
Offline caveat,
Mhm.
accountability.
Mhm.
What is the accountability in not having taken care of those things proactively? Now we have to deal with them, and now you're giving us a Band-Aid for it. What I was saying, and I apologize, I should have been a little bit clearer. What I was asking was the accountability piece. I mean, already you've not taken care of the substructure and the infrastructure aspect of what's going to prevent a lot of the foundational issues from occurring. And then there's something as simple as cutting back trees that overhang into the street. I had more branches falling because the city doesn't come in and cut it back. Or at least insist that those homeowners that have those overlaps, fine them. They don't cut them back because it damages other people's homes. But at the end of the day, again, the accountability piece. Right now, what you're telling me is that you're giving me a Band-Aid for a bullet wound. That's not going to happen. So we need to see about opening this other program back up so that these kind people that live in these communities can appreciate what they should have appreciated if they had the communication necessary in order to be able to take advantage. You feel I support you, and I appreciate you looking into this and holding this forum. But we really need to get the information to the people that need it. And I'm one of them. But, you know, I did a little bit better. I'm retired military, but I take care of my brother. I'm a caregiver as well. So I don't have a great deal of money, but we have existing damage that I just can't afford to repair. And if I'd have known about this program, I wouldn't need my whole house uprooted. I just needed money to help me get it in a condition that's livable and safe for myself and my brother.
Any other questions? So yes, I can. I don't, but I feel like my only answer will be to kind of the state and the county are separate. It's a state-run program. We weren't involved in the advertisement for the original program. We did coordinate to make sure that there was a pop-up intake event in Prichard for the program. However, the advertisement for it was not the county's responsibility, and we also don't have control over whether they take additional applications. Now, the state representatives are here. They're hearing what you're saying.
I just walked outside to see they are not here. They should have been here. They are not here. So we can just tell they're not here.
John.
I went out there and it keeps running, so if I'm wrong, please let
Hey y'all, my name's Jenna Abbey. I am partnered with the state's program to deliver the home recovery Alabama program. Our team is here. I know it's a bit chaotic out there. There are a lot of folks in this room next door, but my colleagues are out there. There are some plastic tables set up. If you walk straight out these doors, right back towards the windows, my colleagues are there to answer your questions, take your information if you're interested. If you already applied, answer questions about the status of your application. We're gonna let Gordon and the team at the county finish up here. And just as soon as we're finished here, I'm gonna walk over there as well. So any of you who care to stay until the end and follow me right back to where the state program representatives are, I'm happy to lead the way.
If you need to give an overview or anything,
One
last thing I would say to address this under point is one of the questions on your survey is what is the effective way for us to reach out to you? So please, if there's a way we're not doing to get word out, please let us know.
thank you.
Thank you.
Again, we need to keep the volume down. We want to make sure everyone's question is heard. Your hand's been up for a little while.
That's the state's program. If it's damaged, they tear it down, build it back. That's the state's program. Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a question on the floor. Again, if you could please keep the volume down. If you're leaving, please do so quietly.
I want to know exactly where we go to get the information we need, the applications for the grants that we need, so we can do some of this on our own. Because depending on government to do it for us, that's been long gone. We don't have any confidence in government anymore. Because Prichard has been neglected. I've been back here in 1986. We been going down a slide, going to critical oil on it. And we never hit on what has been going on in Prichard. Everybody around us is growing. But we're stagnated because we have a lack of leadership that stealing. Some people fighting their tongues about what we get stolen from, bound up. Okay, I've even got to the point that I have pictures of my home and what those two hurricanes are here to. And I've gone to prison. I've gone to the state level, and I've even gone as far as the federal level. I used to work for economic development in Washington, D.C. and grant writing. There is no concern about the underdog. None. We can go in there with a herd of people, and we're gonna get the same speech you just brought us today. And we still gonna stay in the movie. Now, we want to know where are the applications, or how can we get access to those applications? Because I cannot live in my house any longer. It's gone. I've been trying to get the city to tear it down. I was told that there are grants for that to help senior citizens, but I had to sign a lien on my house in order for them to come and tear it down. Okay? I got that firsthand from one of the city officials. Now, I've never known taxpayers' money that was given to cities in grant form were used, where we had to pay it back or sign our property over to them. Explain that.
So the question was about how citizens can access the grant funding directly, and also a question about grant funds being used for demolition and the application of a lien to a property. On the demolition side, I really don't have any details on that. I mean, wasn't involved in that. So I can't really give you much of an information about that. As far as accessing the grant money directly, there are certain grants that can be applied for, directly competitive grants. They're listed online. However, funding like this is typically formula-based, and it's given directly from HUD to the state to the local level. It's not typically open for application from citizens.
I think you kind of answered my question. The funding for this is mostly for businesses or development, developers and stuff like that. That's going to come into our community and do things. I was wondering about, are you looking at nonprofits that are 501c3 status? Is that the ones that you'll be working with on this program?
So the question was whether we would be working with 501c3 nonprofits for some of these activities. It's a question that's a little too early to answer because we still have to determine what kind of activities we're going to be doing, but there are formats and models to follow. There's a home term called a CHODO, CHDO, which is where you partner with nonprofits to build affordable housing. So it is definitely a possibility.
I appreciate it when you guys grow. My main concern is, please, whatever you do, whatever you decide, give this city, Prichard, Alabama, give them enough resources to fix what's broken on these roads and in these culverts. My foundation will move 3 inches. And where I live at is on Crystal Springs Road, which has a runoff from Dollar Battery Park. So all that water just came right on up in on my property, because on the side of the road where the culverts are there, there's no pipe in there. And it's been that way for over 10 years. This city needs money. This city needs help. Y'all sit up there in Washington and DC and come up with these damn grants, but none of them come here. None of them come here. If they come here, we don't think so. No. Right. Y'all come in, yeah. They don't got to go on that.
Was about existing damages to the infrastructure and water and sewer needs in the city of Prichard, and making sure that an appropriate amount of assistance from the grant goes towards the city of Prichard. So again, as I mentioned earlier, there is that historically disadvantaged and underserved aspect of our evaluations to these applications. And secondly, the best thing that we really are still in the process of determining what projects we're doing. And if we can get data from the city of Prichard, from water and sewer boards here, about where damage is, where it occurred, what was damaged by Hurricane Sally and Zeta. So that would be how
Why they all for who they know.
What I would like to say to you, if you would, the time to address the questions about the city of Prichard is during our city council meeting. We are here from 4, it starts at 4 on Thursday, every Thursday. But no one comes to address their concerns. So what I would encourage you all to do is to address your concerns to your council members on Thursday at 4 p.m. So every Thursday at 4 p.m. Please know of and address your concerns to your council members. Thank you.
Now, they're here now. I don't live in Prichard, but they're here now.
Okay, I have a question. A part of that thing said plainly. Is any of this grant money capable of being allocated to a community park? One of the main things I know growing up in
in Prichard that destroyed Prichard was when they closed down the community park. When I look at Diamond Bay, when I look at Trinity Garden, when I look at the now Africa Town, the places that kept their parks, those cities are still strong. But Prichard is broken really because we have no communication spot. We have not had a park in Prichard in over 50 years. That's ridiculous.
You said
we need a community park.
a park, you said?
Yes.
Okay. The question was whether this funding could go towards the construction of a park. So this funding, every use of it has to have what's called a direct or indirect tie back to those two storms. If it was possible to link a park to the storms, then yes, but off the top of my head, I can't come up with an idea of how building a new park would be related to the two storms.
And cutting trees. What about
That's
I mean, but I've been in my house over 50 years. And nothing gets done. Now, trees are still there, they can overflow my house.
So
I have 12 weeks sewage, and I can't my sewage be done.
So the question was about overgrown trees on the land and damage to the house.
I was scared to sit out in my yard because it doesn't blind my house. And four in this house.
Gotcha. So trimming.
Probably 45, right, 95 states.
Gotcha. So trimming trees on private property would most likely not be an eligible use of the money. Maintenance is ineligible for the funding, and if it's on your property, it would also fall into, if there's trees on your property causing damage to your house, I would say that would fall more into the state's single family home repair program.
If one fall, it'll fall on my house. So nobody tells people that they need to cut these trees because it's just an empty lot. You don't know who it belongs to because they don't want to be used.
Program that you said is over the but if you're supposed to do that, right? Is it gonna reopen?
At this time, we do not know.
Yeah.
Are there available funds for it to reopen? Not at this time. So the question was about the state's program. Gordon already mentioned that the state housing program has closed. We accepted applications from March through September of last year and reached what we believe is capacity with the funding available. That said, if you are interested, should things change, I don't have any reason to believe this time that they will, but you never know. My team's back here is happy to take your contact information if you did not apply during the period when the application was open. If for some reason additional funds are allocated to the program and the program reopens, we would then have your contact information to give you a call or shoot you an email if something changes. But at present, it is not accepting any new apps.
I would like to ask her one question. You said that the time between March and September of last year, how did that information get out to whoever applied? Because that's 7 whole American lives.
So somewhere somebody dropped the ball communication, and it's unacceptable to say that.
A lot of people did not know it till they saw people, structures being torn down and built up. But I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. And if you know, then you know where to go and how to apply. So that's what I guess I'm asking now. How do we get information from you all so we'll know what to do?
So again, my team is back here at the plastic tables by the window. If you are interested in leaving your contact information, if the program reopens, we will call you directly. The program was marketed using several different avenues. It is closed today, but if you're interested, should it reopen, I encourage you to leave your name, telephone number, preferred contact information back there so that we can give you a call direct.
I'm sorry. It's related to the.
I want to ask her something. I guess she said that. She sat down, she's done. I mean, well, I could ask Major Development. Okay. My question is, I think this is what the young lady is asking. When these things are available, how we gonna get the information? I mean, this stuff down here now, this was given last year. I just found out 2-3 days ago. So how we gonna get the information? So the question is, if something comes available, how do we get the information?
That's what she was saying. Go.
So if you guys are interested in the housing program, there is a website. It's www.homerecoveryal.com. That website is not related to the county's grant. That is only for the state's housing program. But that website includes all information. So if for any reason, and again, it's an if at this point, but if the program does reopen, y'all can check there. There's a contact us portal. Some of you asked, how do we reach out direct to the state's program? There's a link on that website, contact us, that you can fill out your inquiry. And if you see I don't know the phone number off the top of my head, y'all forgive me now, but there's also a call center you can call and speak with a person about your unique personal circumstances as well. If you give me a minute after the county is finished with their presentation, I'm happy to give that phone number out to all of you to write the website down.
Any other question?
That home repair website again, say it one more time.
Sorry, www.home recovery, RECOVERY,